I'm unwilling to pretend anymore and not talk about this stuff and not be real about it.
Kate Eckman, a leading voice in True Connection, shares her heartbreaking journey of self-love and acceptance.
I see the pain and hurt all around me, and I see it because I've been there.
And she's opening up about her mission to help others be seen
It starts with really taking the time to see ourselves.
for who they are.
So many people can't show up for us. They haven't even shown up for themselves. It's the sustainable happiness really is an inside job.
On an all-new Intentional Living with Courtney Myers. Welcome to Intentional Living with Courtney Myers, a podcast dedicated to those seeking a more fulfilled and purposeful life through thought-provoking conversation, spiritual exploration, and authentic connections. The intentional movement has begun, and if you found yourself here, you are a part of it. Intentional Living with Courtney Myers starts now. Hi, Kate. Welcome to Intentional Living with Courtney Myers. I am so happy we get to talk. We've already got to connect a little bit before I pushed record, and I feel like we're going to have a great conversation today.
I am so excited. Thank you so much for having me. It's already, the universe, something more powerful than us brought us together, and we're both talking about and thinking about intuition and surrender and trust. So we're already off to a beautiful start, I should say.
Well, I know. And that's what we were kind of just talking about. I'm like, we have to push record because this whole concept of surrender and trust, two of the biggest things we have to have when we deal with our intuition or manifestation or just going with those feelings and allowing the universe to take care of us, have our back, whatever you want to say. But that is, I think, one of the most challenging things we face. My husband and I just had the conversation the other night, and he actually texted a family friend who is actually very spiritually religious and said, how do you surrender? And that's kind of a conversation we've had a lot of because our patience wears thin, especially when we're very high achieving people like I know you are. So what's your secret?
Yeah, I think something that's interesting about surrender and trust is when I was doing my research in graduate school at Columbia, studying confidence and accelerating leadership development through embodying and embracing our confidence and even describing or defining what confidence really means, is that confidence stems from the words to trust, to do something with trust. And so people think of confidence as what I look like, how much money I'm making, who I'm impressing, the likes, the followers, all the externals, but it really is an inside job. And same with surrender. I think many of us understand, oh, yes, I need to trust more in myself and others and God and the universe, whatever I believe in. Oh, yeah, I need to just surrender the outcome or surrender how the money's going to come or where am I going? Where am I going to live next year or whatever? But it really isn't an intellectual concept. It is more with the spirit, and it is more of a relationship with the divinity within you, and certainly with a higher power, if you believe in that, which I do. And so it is a practice like anything else. I think it's a muscle that we develop. It's like going to the gym. You have to go consistently to experience physical fitness. And the same is with our mental and emotional and spiritual fitness, and surrender being a huge part of that. It is a practice. Some days, just like the greatest baseball players in the world, you're hitting a home run. And those same greatest players of all time have many, many, many strikeouts. Some days we're hitting a home run. Some days we're striking out. But I think if you can learn from it, and then I think it does have a cumulative effect where the more and more you do it and practice, the better you get at it. And I think sometimes for me, I've been at this for so long now, and I have moments where I like to say, like, old Kate would be really anxious right now or stressed out or, tapping me on the shoulder, like, aren't you nervous about this? Or aren't you freaked out about that? And now I think, and sometimes we get exhausted by doing that to ourselves. I'm just like, I'm good. I trust. I'm always taken care of 10 times out of 10, even if it happens at the 11th hour, 11:59, it always works out for me. And I think if you live your life from that mentality, the whole surrender piece is a lot easier.
Well, I think that is what I've been taught a lot of the times is like bringing yourself back to that present moment. Like, are you okay? Are you safe right now in this moment? The world is not crumbling around you. Yes. And then you can kind of lean into it. But even I've talked to other people and they kind of like say, like you said, you almost have to build up that bank of proof to help you understand that the universe is always going, or God, whoever is always going to be there to take care of you. And so the more you do it, the more you surrender, the more you see that proof. In those times when it's a little bit harder, you can kind of call back on it.
You know, I just, as you were saying that, I'm like, gosh, I even want to just tell you a quick story, if I may, about, I mean, even the family that I'm having dinner with tonight, because I think people think about this when it comes to a romantic partner of, where is he? Where is she? What do I have to do to meet this person? Or all these things. And even recently, I've been given this intuitive advice that is, you don't have to do anything, which is so counterintuitive. And you think, no, especially as an overachiever and type A, it's like, no, I have to do all these things to get my goal, to get the result. And so I think about this family that I'm having dinner with tonight in Newport Beach, you know, the town over from Laguna where I live. And I met this family standing in line to get into the Taylor Swift concert about a month ago at SoFi Stadium. There's 70,000 people there. I had already been 3 nights prior. Out of all the entrances and the minute of time and to be standing in line with these people, we ended up hitting it off, had dinner inside the stadium. They were sitting a few rows away from me. Their son just started school 10 minutes from my house here in California, and they're in town, and we're having dinner tonight. They're just like my new best friends. So they feel like family to me. And the point of the story is, I didn't have to try to meet them. I wasn't like, I really want to meet an awesome family to be friends with and blah, blah, blah. It's just, I just did my thing, went to the concert, another intuitive decision, bought the ticket last minute. And so I think if you're, you know, developing these skills and on this path, you meet the people you're supposed to meet. You attract the opportunities, experiences, money, abundance, job, travel. So we're trying less, actually. Again, very counterintuitive. But once you've done enough of this work and put in enough of these reps, you get to just kind of show up and meet the people. Does that make sense?
Well, isn't that so true though? The more you try, and the term I always use, and my mentor is always like trying to beat it out of me. Stop trying to figure it out. But as an overachiever, as someone that wants to excel, as a high achieving person, which I know you are, it's like you want to control the situation. I think that comes second nature with this ability to achieve or want more. And so by controlling, we actually get in the way. We're trying to figure it out, and things don't always happen for us in a logical way. It is more, you know, you can't explain it. Like, we don't know what's going to happen, and things will, like you said, magically happen. You'll meet that family in line and they're your next best friend. They may introduce you to that new job or that new person you're supposed to be with, whatever it is. We don't know, and we can't know. That's the magic of the universe.
Yeah. And so this is really about taking your grip off the wheel so tightly. You know, when we clench and when we try to control, we actually repel our desires and our goals and our dreams. And so it's Hold On Loosely, which is a 38 Special song. I love that there's even a song to illustrate this point, but to really loosen our grip and put in the work and take the action. But sometimes, Courtney, the action is taking the day off and not working and going to the beach, or taking the walk in nature, or having the 4-hour lunch with a friend, or sleeping in and resting and getting the massage. That's the work to put you in the vibration and the energy of the frequency that is a match for that thing that you desire. So even for me, taking this trip to Europe recently, and it costs a fortune. And you know, there's moments where it's like, girl, why are you spending all this money? And it's like, because I work hard and I deserve it, first of all. And I get vacations too. Haven't taken one in 4 years. But what this trip did to me energetically and how I felt it raise my vibration, I'm putting myself into a perfect position of attraction for what I desire. Because when we just like, all we do is work and hustle and grind, you're burned out, you're at a low vibration, you're going to attract more of the same. So I think anytime you start to feel that guilt or that shame or that I shouldn't do that, or you fall into the trap that especially is here in America of justifying your existence through hard work. And you see this play out all the time. Even a friend said to me, oh, I don't have time for vacation. I'm heads down. I'm working. And I think, good for you. Last year, when I was working 16-hour days, you were on vacation for 3 months. You know what I mean? So there's a time and place for all of it, but not comparing, not judging, and really allowing yourself that time to breathe and to create the space to attract what you want.
How do we give ourselves that permission? Because there's a lot of people out there like you or like I that will work those 16-hour days, that are always constantly going, and that buy into that culture, into that grind. And I know it is really hard for me to let up. Like, how do you give yourself the permission to do that?
I think you have to first just acknowledge that all you're doing is working and placing all of your worth and time and energy into work. And there's plenty of people listening, I'm sure, who are like, well, I love what I do. And I think that's great.
Mm-hmm.
But, one of the things I love learning when I was getting my coaching certification is coaching the whole person. We are more than our job title and our relationship title and status and what we're doing and how much money we're making. And so knowing and trusting and surrendering to the fact that you will be better at your job. You can make more money.
Yeah.
You can have better results if you take time off, if you nurture the whole person. I mean, think about your hobbies, think about your passion projects that you've neglected. I mean, for me, I had to step away from the cash cow of television presenting and on camera work, which was great, but I had a bigger purpose than that. And at first it didn't make more money. It made way less money, but then my goal is much bigger than just how much money I'm making. I really do care about the impact that I'm making in the world. And for me, I hear the downloads. I get the life assignments from Spirit of, you need to talk about these topics. You need to help people with their mental health. And I'm going to give you the tools and education and expertise to do that. So I think it's, or if you're used to all I do is work, and that's the voice that you hear, like, no, you got to work, 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 prove yourself. You're not worthy unless you're doing this. To start taking the opposite advice from that voice and to really just start doing the opposite actions. So if all you know is to work 16 hours a day and kind of neglect your own well-being, it's prioritizing that. And it might feel really uncomfortable at first, but what is important to you? And I really hope that everyone hearing this, you are important to you. Your health, your well-being, your spirit, your relationships with self and others is really important to you.
I mean, that sounds like you're really like combating the ego mind and the whole spirit in that statement. The ego is the one that's like work, 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 achieve, achieve, achieve. And, the ego gets a bad rap. And that's nothing to say that you have to work in conjunction. I think there needs to be a happy balance between the two to allow us to really fulfill our purpose, like you talked about. And but how do we find that purpose? Because if you're so tunnel visioned into your work, or we hands off the work and you're just sitting here like going around aimlessly following whatever whim comes up, like how do you tap into your purpose or where you really want to go?
I think you need to ask yourself a lot of important questions, or hire a coach, therapist, whatever, is your jam. I love working with coaches. That inspired me to become a coach and advisor myself. But notice what lights you up. Think about what energizes you. For me, for instance, conversations like this light me up. Ideally, we're in person and we have our own show on a huge platform and we're impacting a ton of people, etc.
Yes.
And we both have been there and we both can go there again and hey, do it here now. So I think noticing what lights you up, and to that point, I'm not making a penny right now having this conversation or being on your show, but it is so worth my time and energy because I love it. I love connecting with people like you. And then even if one person benefits from this conversation, it is worth it. I think that's the other thing too. People are focused on, well, I have to speak on a stage in front of 10,000 people. Why? I get that you want a big impact, but even just touching one life is reason enough to do it. I think you need to ask yourself, what is important to you right now? I think a lot of people are trapped in the rat race. I think, what is important to me right now? Spending time with my kids. Okay. How much time are you spending with your kids? Gosh, now that I think about it, only an hour a day. Is that enough time for you? No. So then it's just rearranging things, putting things into your schedule, which I have a lot of clients do. But I think it's so simple. And yet I find that people really struggle with this, is even taking 10 minutes a day to sit quietly with themselves. Even I was with a girlfriend last night who her beloved dog died. And anyone who has a pet know how devastating that is. And she was alone in the car driving to meet me. And she said she was sobbing. And I said, great, it's appropriate that you're sobbing. This was like your best friend for 12 years. It's like we all know how special dogs are. And she even just said, I just need more time alone to grieve. And so we need time alone to grieve. We need time alone to love. We need time alone to get clear about who we are and what we want. And sadly, I see very few people taking much time at all to just spend that quiet time alone, asking and answering these really powerful questions.
I mean, it's difficult. It's difficult, especially in our society now, I think, to take that alone time, because it is really easy to just distract ourselves and not really go down to our emotions, our feelings, allowing ourselves to go there. But also, I think what's interesting is you're saying that it's like the simple things, like taking a breath, taking 10 minutes to yourself, spending more time with your kids. These little changes in our lives can help us connect spiritually. And yet we find it really hard to do these simple actions, but they're the most spiritual things I think we can do.
Yeah. And they pay massive rewards when you sit and do them. Even a non-negotiable practice I do every day is what I call my sit and stare time. And I take at least 5. For me, it's more like an hour. And I sit and I stare straight ahead or out the window. And I check in with myself as if I was a small child and say, how are you? What do you need right now? How can I help you? What can I do to nurture you today? What's working? What isn't? And then again, becoming more practiced at listening to the answer and then giving ourselves that. Just if you ask your small child, honey, what do you need right now? And the kid says, I really need a snack. I'm starving. You're going to stop what you're doing and get the child a snack. But yet you laugh, but how often do we do that for ourselves? It's like, I don't have time to eat. Or it's almost like, you don't deserve a snack. You didn't make enough money today. Or you don't look good enough today. Or you said a dumb thing in that meeting. No snacks for you. And it's like, you'd probably have child services called on you if you treated your kid that way. So you laugh because we do this to ourselves all the time. And then we ask, why am I so tired? Why am I so grumpy? Why are my relationships crumbling? Why am I unhappy at work? Why do I feel burned out? And so for the people who say, well, that must be nice. Good for you, Kate. That's so cute and adorable. I don't have time for that. I say, I don't have time to be angry. I don't have time to yell at the kids I don't have, but at anything. I don't have time to be unhappy or miserable or not be clear and creative in producing my best work in life. And so I think it's just taking the time to ask yourselves these questions and get really clear on who you are underneath all the labels that you give yourself and society gives you, and what you really want, not what you want. That's dictated by society, family, parents' wishes for us, what the neighbors are doing, and social media tells us is important. I'm talking about what you really want. And you answer that by saying, if I took away money, geography, what people think, any perceived limitations, what would I be doing? What do I want to do? And I think the answer will shock many of you if you take the time to do this on a walking meditation or silently at home. And so carving out more of that time to really do this. And if you want to do it with a coach, I highly recommend that. I am a coach. I am a coachee, and both have changed my life tremendously for the better.
But even that, and I'm a practicer of this, I have coaches and mentors. I have these conversations multiple times a day. You know, I feel like I'm consistently now getting coached in so many different ways from so many different perspectives by just doing this podcast. I keep saying that this feels very self-serving, like I'm learning so much just by doing this. But even with all of that, sometimes getting past those beliefs, like you said, taking out all those limiting beliefs and all that programming and all that conditioning can be difficult. I mean, the longer you go with dealing with that and having those voices in your head or having that programming in your head, it's really hard to peel it back and understand, like, no, what part of this is me and what part of this is society, my parents, the media, whatever voice, whatever soundtrack you're playing in your head. How do we do that aside from like subconscious reprogramming or hypnotism, which I've explored those options too. So, I mean, it's not as simple as all these tools are. That one is extremely, I don't think, or is not very simple, I don't think.
I think it's simple, but not easy. And it's like anything else worthwhile in life. I'm sure there's mothers listening. If you're a mother, you are my hero. If you can be pregnant for 9 months, go through labor, give birth, and be responsible for another human being's life, you can do anything. So I say, I much love to all parents, but mothers especially. I have such a special place in my heart for you, especially as a non-mother and as the fun aunt who just gets to enjoy all the fun things and then give them back, So,
Yes.
I just invite everyone to consider what really matters to you. And you think about, the business that you started. It wasn't easy. You think about, again, parenthood. Anyone who takes on parenthood, I think people don't really know how hard it is, which is the only marriage.
No.
I think people don't truly understand what they're signing up for with marriage or parenthood. Otherwise, nobody would do it, candidly. But that relationship is important to you. That having children is important to you. So I think you just have to ask yourself, how important is it for me to feel really good, to love life, to claim joy as something that I get to have and experience every day, that life gets to be fun. I think we've forgotten these basic concepts. That's why it's so important to travel and get out of your space and the house chores and everything and just really experience life and experience yourself and put yourself in situations that make you uncomfortable. And I want this for people so badly, but I'm not the drill sergeant who's telling you like, you have to do this, or even you should do this. It's more of an invitation. Like, just thought you'd like to know. And maybe at first you'll make less money or you'll be uncomfortable. You may even be miserable for a time while you're experiencing some dark aspects of yourself, or you're realizing that all these people are teachers teaching some hard lessons, but then the payoff is so huge. And I speak from my own experience. The liberation and freedom that comes from really truly getting to know yourself and to love yourself. And I'm not talking like I love myself because I won this award or I got this degree or I looked really pretty or something. It's I love myself because of everything that's here on the inside. And this is available to everybody. And I think people are more willing to do it when they see someone like myself, like they say, gosh, or you've achieved this, or you're so genuinely happy. What is it? And it's just like, I tell them these inner skills or exercises, which they're kind of like, no, really, you're happy because of the house or the car or the job or the money or the man. And it's like, those things are amazing, but they can all be taken from you and they offer, limited happiness at best. It's the sustainable happiness really is an inside job. And again, people understand it intellectually, Courtney, but there's this disconnect because our society is preaching something completely different, as you know.
Well, and I think that is, I would venture to say that the majority of your clients are probably extremely high achieving people. And that is something you see is the people that reach a level of quote unquote success, what our society says success, like you said, the man, the car, the house, whatever, the family, the vacations. Sometimes those are the most unfulfilled people. It just goes to prove the point that all the trappings, all these other things don't actually provide that happiness, but it is really hard to get uncomfortable and sit in it and in your own stuff to really truly understand what makes you happy. It is so much easier to distract ourselves with all the fancy things. So much easier.
Yeah. Absolutely. And I, as you're speaking, I'm thinking of a client of mine. I won't say his name, but he had all the things. He had everything that society says you should have to be happy. He had all of it. And he was struggling with, okay, I've done all the things. I have all the things. I still feel unfulfilled. And then he felt bad feeling unfulfilled. Right. He literally had it all. And the people I've lost to suicide had it all. I, on paper and from the outside, I have had it all, and yet was just feeling at times so lacking of self-worth, so unhappy, so questioning, what does all this mean and why does it even matter? And so for me, I've experienced that. But when I worked with my clients, a lot of them, it's more on their legacy. What kind of legacy do I want to leave behind? And the legacy isn't like, oh, worked at this firm for 30 years or did this thing or even children. But I think it's, being able to give back to the community in a meaningful way. And that's what science and certainly my own life has indicated, that things like acts of kindness and service, time affluence, having the time to do what you actually want to do, spending time in nature and with our loved ones, these things just really up the happiness meter and well-being meter way more than any shiny object ever could. And so it's, again, thinking like, if I'm leaving next week, next year, what really matters? What do I want to leave behind? What do I want to be known for? And I think it'll hopefully start to change some of the decisions that you're making on the daily, and really knowing that life is a gift and it's precious and tomorrow isn't guaranteed, and that, connection and more meaningful, days and hours with our loved ones is really where it's at. That's the wealth.
But the legacy concept, that's an interesting one, because I was having this conversation with my husband the other day as we were getting ready, and he heard on Instagram and he was telling me this, and then he showed me, I think it was a clip of it, of someone saying, do you even know your great grandfather's name? Do you know like your own lineage? We talk about leaving this legacy. Now, I'm very blessed. I've known all of my great grandparents. They didn't start passing away until I was, I think, in junior high or high school. So like I actually really knew them. Which is extremely rare. I just lost my very first grandfather, just this last year. So I've known all of my grandparents. I've known all of my great grandparents. So I can say their names. I don't know their parents. I don't know the greats. So we talk about this idea of leaving a legacy, but even within our own families, unless you're like the Rockefellers, you don't know your lineage. We can't even call back the people that in our past. So what are we really doing with this leaving a legacy? I think we need to look more at what you're talking about is those acts of service. And that's part of what I think intentional living is about. And I've been talking to people about this, and it's been coming up quite a bit, this whole concept of living in service of others and how that impacts you and in return, everyone else. And that fills your happiness cup.
I think it's characteristics. So, even someone, I was on a show the other day and they were reading my bio, and I was just like, it's almost like I'm grateful, and I almost wanted to roll my eyes because it's just like, God, that sounds exhausting, and when people, and someone said, well, how would you describe yourself? And what do people usually do? I'm a doctor, I'm a teacher, I'm a mother of 4, I'm a wife, I'm a, whatever. And when people ask me that question, I don't go into I'm an author, I'm a speaker. That's on my bio. You can read it on my website. It's there for people who want to hire me for that sort of thing.
Right.
Great. Someone asked me the other day, I'm like, I'm a woman who brings the joy. I'm just here to bring the joy and bring the love. And I think for me, legacy, there's these things that I've done that I'm proud of, or like suicide prevention awareness and speaking about that. Awesome. I think though it's for me, when I think of legacy, it's, wow, that woman just lit up a room and made me feel so seen and heard and acknowledged in her presence. And that actually makes me want to weep, because that is such a gift that you can give to yourself, but to others, is to have make somebody feel seen and heard. And I really do think it's an epidemic that people who even love us or claim to love us don't see us, don't hear us, can't even acknowledge us, can't celebrate us. I've lost friends recently over, they can't even celebrate your wins. And it's like, what is wrong with you? That's so messed up. So maybe a message to some people to purge and clear out some toxic people in their lives. But that's what I want my legacy to be, is wow, when I was around Kate, she made me feel so good, right? I think maybe looking at legacy more in those terms. And listen, it's amazing if you can donate $50 million to a children's charity, or donate money and get a new baseball field for your alma mater. All those things are amazing. But I think for me, at least, and something I want people to think about more consciously, is how do you make people feel? Whether you're saying a word or not, or in your presence. And I think we're rushing so much trying to achieve and leave that kind of material legacy that we overlook people. And it makes me sad, obviously, clearly.
Is that how you found yourself in this space? Because like you said, your bio is very impressive. You've achieved a lot of things, but it sounds almost to me like maybe you weren't seen despite your achievements.
I think for me, it's always been, that my worth was, I think this is our culture and the family I grew up in. It's, you had to do something to get love, or you needed to achieve, you needed to perform. And maybe I put a lot of that on myself. just from things growing up or how I interpreted them. But it was definitely a notion of, I've got to perform at a really high level so I feel safe in the world. I feel loved. I feel good enough. People validate me. And I'm crying because I know this is most people's experience, but people don't talk about it. They haven't even taken the time to even know that that's what's going on, why they're working 16 hours a day. For what? So I just want people to be more conscious and aware. Again, what people do is their business. I'm unwilling to pretend anymore and not talk about this stuff and not be real about it and not know how painful it is, because I see the pain and hurt all around me, and I see it because I've been there. And I just want so much more for people. And I see a lot of people really lost and really unhappy. And I think what they think their pathway is to getting unstuck or unlost or happy is something that's going to make them more lost and more stuck and more unhappy, if that makes sense, speaking from experience.
Yeah. I mean, I'm right there with you. I have experienced I know exactly what you're talking about. It's why I'm here today. It's why I'm doing this today. And I do think it needs to be talked about more. And so how do we do that? It's something I struggle with. How do we see each other more? How do we show up for one another and just really honor who we truly are and love one another in an authentic way, and not because we have to perform or show up as a version of ourselves that others may want us to?
Yeah, I think it starts with really taking the time to see ourselves and not putting that on anybody else, like blaming parents, blaming partners, blaming colleagues, coworkers, friends, but really, are you showing up and really seeing yourself and hearing yourself and honoring and acknowledging yourself and spending the time to do that? So then you are able to show up for other people. So many people can't show up for us. They haven't even shown up for themselves. They don't even know what you're talking about or what that looks like. So really taking the time to care for yourself so that you can care for other people. And I think if you can look at everybody that you meet as a teacher, good, bad, or ugly, you can accept that every experience is meant to grow you into a deeper, more evolved, better version of yourself. Then you come at life like, what you got, I got this. And then you can authentically show up for others because you've done it for yourself. So for me, if you call me up right now and you're like, I just got my own TV show. I'm making $50 million a year and I'm co-hosting with Brad Pitt. I'm going to feel nothing but genuine, elated happiness for you. Most people, sadly, Courtney, are not. They're going to be jealous. Well, why'd she get it? Why not me? And so me being happy for you, though, for instance, me seeing you and hearing you, that is a direct message to the universe, like, we're going to deliver something like that for Kate, only that's like appropriate for Kate, that's in alignment with Kate. So that's what people don't understand about celebrating other success too. You're celebrating the success that's on its way to you. You're saying, okay, universe, that's something like that sounds good. The universe, like, send it her way. You're jealous, you're blocking your blessings. So I think spending more time just thinking about humanity and taking a look around. That's what I was forced to do when I lost loved ones to suicide, and just thought, how on earth would anyone, especially people as beautiful as these men, choose this or to die by suicide? And so and then just taking a look around and being like, wow, there's a lot of pain out there. And noticing it because I'm experiencing it. And then it's like, all right, before you can help all these people. And that's what really bothers me about the coaching industry, is that people aren't spending the time fine tuning their own instrument. You're showing up as a coach for other people. You've still got a lot of healing and work to do. And so it's, spending that time really doing that work so you can show up more authentically for others. And that may mean your circle's a lot smaller. It may mean you're spending more time alone. And again, things a lot of people aren't comfortable with or don't want to do, but it's just worth it. Because I sound like I'm beating a dead horse, but it's like, what kind of life do you want to have? Like, what kind of true impact and legacy do you want to leave? I mean, you're at the funeral, you hear like like at my love's funeral, it's just like, he was friends with everybody. Like everybody loved him. They didn't talk about all the accolades and awards. It was like sprinkled in there, but who cares at that point? It's just like, this man like just loved everybody and everybody loved him. What a legacy to live or to leave and live.
Yeah. I mean, isn't the human experience weird like that? That we are really here to come back to ourselves and to really understand ourselves. And there's so much of this that we just either negatively give off, like you said, we have a hard time celebrating others until they're gone, or we just have a hard time even showing up and caring for ourselves. And it puts off such energy that we're going to attract more of that into our life, so that if we can truly learn to embody what's great about ourselves, like you said, we can attract that into our life. We can attract more love into our life and all those things. It's that abundance mindset, but it doesn't necessarily need to be about money. It can be about love. It can be about compassion. It can be about empathy. And I think that is one thing I try and learn, and I struggle with it. And I think we all struggle with it. It's a huge, I don't know why it's human nature to go to the negative or to be jealous or to be competitive. But those things come so much easier, I feel like, than the outpouring of love for our friends and family.
Yeah. And it saddens me deeply, which is, and when I'm exhausted now for many reasons, but when I am in this place where I am now, I think, okay, like after this conversation, we're going to go do something really nurturing for ourselves. And, not just push through it like I would in the past, or tackle 10 more assignments or tasks or work things. So I do have work to do after this, but I'm like, you know what? I think we're going to call it a day. You're going to do something nice to yourself, have dinner with these friends tonight. And I think knowing, when to say when. People usually say that with drinking and over drinking, but I think knowing when to say when with pushing ourselves and really trying to look at ourselves as children. Hopefully you're not pushing your 5-year-old to run 10 miles a day, even after, they walk 1 mile, they're like, I'm exhausted. And I think treating ourselves more like that, thinking of the inner child and nurturing ourselves, and just knowing, again, we go back to surrender and trust here, knowing that when you do all these very counterintuitive things, the results do happen. You get the results you want. You get that 6-pack on the inside. And I'm telling you, you just have to try less. The hustle and grind is, at this point, I think we've all done the hustle and grind. And now it's a little more of taking more intentional actions and taking intentional inaction of I'm taking some time to myself, and knowing that if I take these 4 hours off, when I come back to work tomorrow, I can do 8 hours of work in 2 hours. And it's much more high level, creative, and inspiring.
Well, you would think the pandemic would have taught us this, right? I mean, a worldwide slowdown is essentially what we had, a worldwide shutdown, a worldwide moment to go within, sit with ourselves. But it seems like as everything's just kind of revamped, we've gone straight back to our old ways.
Yeah, for me, when I think pandemic slowdown, I think more of everyone's numbing techniques increased. So I get that the world was shut down, but I think a lot of people, some did. I don't want to judge what other people were doing because I don't know. But based on my experience, what I did see with a lot of people is a lot of numbing because there was a lot of discomfort. And I certainly, my drug of choice is food. I certainly, overate at times to do that, because it wasn't just the pandemic. There was social and racial and political unrest on the daily, unprecedented insanity every day from all directions that we all dealt with during a pandemic. So I just honor all of us for getting through that time. But hopefully people did take some time to reflect. I mean, for me, I wrote my manuscript, and I wrote, edited, published, promoted a book during COVID, among other things. So for me, I feel like I'm kind of in my pandemic slowdown. Like right now, I'm just taking like a month or two to really kind of reset and recalibrate and shift gears. And there's moments where I'm like, you didn't do a lot today. And it's like, define a lot. Or it's like, I achieved a lot of rest and self-reflection and self-care. And I really got to know myself today. And we just throw that away like it's insignificant. So I it's going to be interesting what your audience takes away from this conversation. I hope, if anything, they just, even for a moment, maybe think of things differently, or just say, that's interesting, or haven't thought of that before, or it resonates, and they, start making some different choices, maybe just little baby steps here and there, but get on more of a path of just what's authentic to you. And but that notion of being able to see and hear ourselves and other people is really, really, really important to me.
Has that always been important to you, or did it happen? It sounds like, so you lost someone very close to you.
Yeah. 2 people. Yeah. I lost 2 loved ones to suicide within a year. And it changed the whole trajectory of my life and the way I saw everything. And that's something anyone who's lost a loved one under any circumstance knows. It's just, you create it's a whole new normal. There's no ever like fully getting over it. But it just really made me look at, and during that time, we also lost huge prominent figures like Kate Spade, Anthony Bourdain, Chester from Linkin Park, the lead singer, another rock star whose name is escaping me. And then a lot of celebrities and athletes started talking about mental health. And what I've realized is that everybody struggles with mental health. I think the people who struggle most don't die by suicide. They just don't, they don't even talk about it. So the people I lost didn't talk about it either. They just, it just happened. But I just think it's important, because I think if more people felt truly seen and heard and validated for who they are at their core, we'd live in a completely different world. There wouldn't be such the obsession with work and money and titles and status and all of those things. And that's why it's this is a big thing to take on, because you talk about feeling lonely, like this a lot of people aren't sharing this mentality.
No. Yeah. Well, I think that's why you're so passionate about the seeing others and having compassion for others, because we need to embrace that. We don't know what other people are going through. It isn't talked about. It's not readily widely talked about, like what our mental state is. It is more accepted to talk about it now, but how many people are actually showing up and saying, I have these thoughts, or I feel like I'm not seen, or, so if we can extend our heart to someone else, we don't know who we're going to touch in that moment to say, hey, you can talk to me, or it's okay, or I'm here, whether you want to talk or not, so that we can avoid situations like this.
Yeah. I think, so many of us reach a certain level in our careers, and there are a lot of people who look like you on paper and off paper. And what really separates you at this time is, do people like you? Do they want to work with you? Do they feel, people talk about energy and, well, I just feel really good around this person, or people underestimate the impact of being a good person and leading with values and treating other people with care. I think this old model is crumbling. We're seeing it crumbling with some people are getting arrested or taken out or stepping down. And, we're in this where, I have a candle right here that says love always wins. Love is more powerful than a lot of dark forces that are at play in the world. And it may take some time for things to fully shift, but I think the good news is things are shifting. People are waking up. People are being like, wait, I don't agree with this, or I didn't sign up for this. And so the moral of this story, I think, is just to the importance of doing the inner work wherever you are, and in your small world, within your house, your neighborhood, your city, the country, and letting that just spread out from your heart and choosing to change the world, just one conversation at a time. That little extra smile to the person at the grocery store checkout. It's just little things that I do. And sometimes seeing people clearly for who they are. That's my gift and curse. I see the good in everybody. I think seeing people clearly for who they are and choosing not to get involved with them. choosing to not work with them, to not date them, to not marry them, to not have children with them, to not spend time around them. I think that's truly seeing people too, and releasing them with love, in the name of self-preservation, if you will.
Yeah. Well, it all comes back to the heart. It all comes back to leading with your heart. And that's part of the shift that's happening, the mass consciousness of the shifting of the whole planet at this point. You know, we're shifting into that divine feminine energy. We're shifting out of that archaic masculine energy. I mean, like you said, we're seeing it. We're seeing the downfall of a lot of that old archaic ways of thinking. And more people are waking up. More and more people are having these conversations. It's not so crazy to talk about energy and spirit or downloads, or, you know, it's not so woo woo, you know, as it is. It's like we are in an era where we can talk about this more. And the more we can, the better off I think we are all going to be, because we can come at things with a different perspective and a different energy and more openness to one another.
Yeah, I think just being able to have a conversation like this on any airwave, and I think we're going to go right. I want to see more uncensored programming and more conversations talking about these topics and what I call positive programming. And there's some of that happening, but making that mainstream rather than turning on your streaming device and there's 90% of it is just violence. Yes. More of this sort of thing. So I'm hopeful and I'm grateful, and you know, anyone who is feeling alone or burned out or stressed or overwhelmed, I get you, I see you, I hear you, and there's things that we can do for this. There's books that we can read, there's conversations that we can have, there's podcasts that we can tune into, and to make you feel less alone. And I certainly feel that right now. Just, you know, again, just meeting you, but feel like we've been friends forever, can talk to you. And I even feel like I'm going off on some tangents, and I'm like, hope this is making sense. But again, I'm like getting my downloads and just kind of, you know, speaking from the heart.
I know. And I love it. And that's where I think we can make the biggest impact. That's what I come at it from as a storyteller's perspective, is the more vulnerable we can get, the more honest we can get, the more open we can get, no matter how uncomfortable that makes us, the more we can connect with others, because we don't connect by preaching. We don't connect by just telling people things. We connect through story. So I can be like, I see me in you and you see me. We see each other. And when we can see each other, that's when we can really connect and make a difference. And so we're all connected. We really are. So more conversations like this, more books like this. Speaking of, you have a book, your Full Spirit Workout. Where can we get that?
Yes, you can go to thefullspiritworkout.com. It's also everywhere books are sold, in stores and online. I had a great publisher, New World Library. They do really, really quality books. That's why I went with them. And I'm so proud of this project, because it was just such a extension of my heart and soul that I wrote during the lockdowns, you know, because it was due July of 2020, my manuscript. And for me, there's so much emphasis placed on physical workouts and our physical being, but much less emphasis placed on the mental, emotional, and spiritual aspects of ourselves. So I wanted to give people exercises that they could do for the inside, for the inner muscles, to get really fit and strong and resilient on the inside, so that you really do have the confidence and resilience and strength to weather any storm. And it is a play on the full body workout that you often hear advertised at the gym, but I made it a lot of fun. So it's a workout you actually want to do. And there's so many great meditations, journaling exercises, Coach Kate check-ins. And so I think it'll really just give you a new perspective and a new way of thinking, that you can achieve your goals in should I say, more fun way. And, you know, there's such a large community where you have your little spiritual running buddies or workout buddies that you can, you know, have join you in reading the book, and certainly reach out to me. And I really wish everyone a journey of self-discovery. And it is a gift and privilege of a lifetime to really, really get to know ourselves, even the dark parts and the heavy parts, and develop that kind of meaningful relationship, so that your relationships with everybody else you meet are improved, and you are able to connect in such a deep way, because that's where I've learned, and if you've experienced it, that's where the joy in life really lives, is that connection and the fulfillment. So regardless of what you're doing in the material world, you have experienced true fulfillment and success and wealth. And it's my wish for everybody.
And I really believe that's what we're all after. If we really break it down, we're all after that fulfillment, that contentment, not necessarily the happiness, because there's going to be ups and downs in life. Happiness is fleeting. That joy, that full mind, body, soul, mind, body, spirit, that it all comes together, and we have to work on it. So if we want to work with you, how do we find you?
Yeah, you can just head over to kateeckman.tv. It's KateEckman.tv, or just Kate@kateeckman.tv, and everywhere on social media is Kate Eckman. I'd love to connect with you there. And thank you so much for connecting with me. I'm so happy to know you and be connected and just keep this conversation going. Thank you so much.
Well, thank you so much for being here and talking to me. And I wish you all the luck I know you have big ideas of where things may be going for you in the future. So I really look forward to seeing your journey.
Thank you so much. Yes, we'll have to keep each other posted. I'm going to be watching all the big things that you're doing.
I can't wait. I love it. I'll talk to you soon. And that's it for today's Intentional Living with Courtney Myers. Thank you so much for joining me. And thank you, Kate Eckman, for such a vulnerable and honest conversation, really talking about what it means to see another person and be there for one another so that we really can change the way this universe, the world is working. We are at a point where things need to shift, and we need to have more conversations like this. And I love her vulnerability. If you want to get in touch with Kate or get her book, I'll put all the information of how to reach her in the show notes or order her book. And as always, you can find Intentional Living with Courtney Myers and Intentional Media on my website at CourtneyMyers.com. That's where you'll find books, courses, and everything else we're doing. Can't wait to talk to you again. Bye.